welcome to another episode of Top Lines and Tails, your weekly livestock podcast. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Harbro, for their continued support. This week on Top Lines and Tails, we go over to Ireland and to speak with Jamie Nolan at the Galway-based company Marteye there. Jamie, welcome to Top Lines and Tails.
Thanks very much.
And Marteye is a streaming and auction service provided to farmers across the UK. I think if you are in livestock in the UK or Ireland, you simply just could not have heard of Marteye. They're a company that sort of snowball into one of the top companies or maybe the top company in that sphere in the last 12 months. An excellent embracement of social media, should I say. Jamie, tell us a little bit how it started and whose idea Marteye was.
Back to 2020, I suppose we have to go back to when Marteye was born. Originally the concept came up through COVID, whereby I suppose there's four of us in Marteye. You've Kieran Feeney that's based in the Galway office, and with a great team over there, including Margaret and Anke and everyone else involved over there. You have myself on the east of Ireland, so I would look after a lot of marts over here on the east of Ireland. You have Mark over in Reading in the UK, and then you have Aaron in London. It started off, I suppose, by means of Tullomart in the east of Ireland, kind of where we'd actually sell our own cattle. Kind of came to us, and the conversation started, and we were dealing with Kieran and Aaron and Mark on another project, and I put the idea to them, and 2 weeks later Marteye was born. Took a little bit of time to get it to where it was, but it's went on considerably. It's award winning now, so that's always nice. Mm-hmm. The social media that you're talking to, have to say that's down to Mark. He has embraced it. He is unbelievable. Just the stuff he produces is eye catching and has really transformed it on a different level.
It's incredible, as I said, it's an incredible story really. And as you said, you were working on another project, so you've been involved in IT already as well as farming, and the opportunity just popped his head up during COVID, as you said. But I mean, was there a call for this technology maybe before then? People have been trying at it and you just happened to be in the right place at the right time?
Yeah, I don't think it would have worked before COVID. I don't think it would have worked. There's plenty of people that have tried it and wasn't embraced. And I think it's looking at the market at the moment, the UK is using it extraordinary well for a dairy base, a pedigree base, and the kind of just around the pedigree sheep, that kind of thing. It's working out really, really well. Mm-hmm. We're seeing some extraordinary figures on all three of them. Mm-hmm. While in Ireland, it's completely different. So both south and north of the border, it's all down to absolutely everything. Whether it's stores, whether it's fat stock, whether it's sheep, whether it's breeding sheep, whether it's calves, there's a phenomenal trade. We're seeing some marts here hitting 50-60% sold online. Mm-hmm. Which is madness. It's mind blowing. It's incredible to see that it's after all these years after COVID that it's still going as strong.
You're right. It's mind blowing the speed that it's taken up as well, not just with yourself but with the farmers. If we go back to those original days, you said you kind of came up with an idea, and I mean, I read somewhere that you got the whole thing up and running within 2 weeks. I've been involved in software development for many years. I mean, that's mental to be able to bring a platform together at that speed. You must have some pretty smart guys behind that.
That goes down to Kieran, Aaron, and Mark. That's not me by any means. Anyone that knows me, you'll say I'm as thick as a plank. But no, Aaron is one incredibly smart individual when it comes to the coding. He's when you kind of talk that language or you try to understand it, it's just very, very interesting. Kieran is a doctor in electronic engineering, and again another very, very intelligent man. And then, as we talked about Mark earlier on with the UI and the how user friendly, it really was focused towards an online bidding platform, and has done incredibly well for everyone, because it's I suppose what Marteye is focused on is being easy to use, and just that kind of colourful, bright approach that, you can scroll down through it, you can find what you need to. And then there's been some incredible projects on Marteye. Originally, it was just the online bidding. Then it moved into the hybrid bidding when marts in the south of Ireland and north of Ireland began to reopen after COVID. So we had to find a solution that the auctioneer could take bids from ringside and online. So we came up with the solution of a digitalised gavel, an item that the auctioneer held in his hand and would vibrate for an online bid.
Right.
And he could flick between increments, so he could move left or right, and then he could accept the bid from the floor by pressing the button on the gavel. So it kept online and it kept ringside synchronized. So that was an incredibly cool piece of kit to see working. And
sure,
that's that revitalized it. I think it really, really went well with that.
Sure, and go back to those early days. You'd be going out in the markets, as you said, Tullow and various places in the Southern Ireland. You'd probably be challenged with the internet, I guess, at Origin, some of those places. That you rely on a good internet both on site and, of course, with the people that are bidding as well. I mean, that'd be a challenge in itself.
Yes. What we learned from the early days was because Marteye was built specifically for online bidding, it took, I suppose, steady internet speed rather than a high internet speed.
Okay. So
what we needed was something that was steady. We didn't need something that was high, specifically for the reason that it was built, for online bidding. And it wasn't. It was completely original from the foundations up. So it wasn't just add-ons and stuff like that. Okay. Everything we built was purposeful. So we struggled in some places, but we found solution. We've never had to cancel a sale.
Right.
So that's good.
Okay.
But yeah, we did struggle in some places, but we've got there. So we've used, I suppose, a mix of 4G kind of systems and then landline-based systems, especially in rural Ireland. It's been a bit of a challenge for that, but we've overcame it, so we're not doing too bad.
Brilliant. And back in those early days, you would go out to visit the market itself and film the action sort of from the side of the ring there. I mean, things have changed since those days, I guess, but you'd actually get involved physically.
Yes, we would. We've only had to do that really once or twice with pedigree sales. For example, the Jigginstown sale. Mm-hmm. We had to do it there, but we've camera systems in each mart. Sometimes 3 and 4 different cameras. We have backup systems in each mart that if something was to fail, we have another option to move across. Again, just backup system after backup system. That's we built it to this stage and we've never had to cancel a sale. So, and that's down to Kieran future-proofing on thinking on everything. It's thinking of everything is a big enough job, but we've got there now, thankfully, so far.
It's phenomenal. And as you said about the growth, you started in Ireland, or very quickly moved into England, Scotland, Wales, picked off your markets there. Did you grow with regards to your team there? Jamie, you sound like you're the sales side of this. Did you grow with regards to your team, or did you just get on your bike and go and visit these people and just chase them all up and say,
no, a lot of it was organic. So in the early days, I suppose in Ireland, there was a lot of calls, that kind of thing. And a lot of growth incredibly quickly. The UK and the north of Ireland was slightly different. We went up into, I think, Richard Beattie's marts in the north of Ireland were our first marts in the north of Ireland. We fitted 5 of them into one day, and they went live the next week. I think it was July. And then we went to the UK, and Norton Brooksbank were our first for a dairy sale up in Shrewsbury. Mm-hmm. And incredibly quickly after that sale, we had fitted Froome, we had fitted Shrewsbury Market itself, we had fitted GTH, we had fitted Kibbles. And then grew very quickly after that to Melton Mowbray, Barber's Auctions was in there, Sedgemoor. There was a lot of growth very, very quickly there on in Denmark.
You're talking some of the flagship auction companies in the UK, especially when you mentioned earlier on that's the dairy side. Which would dairy side have been easier back then than maybe buying fat cattle or store cattle? Would dairy people be buying cull cows or buying breeding cows? Would they be more prepared to buy animals unseen, if you like? Because I'm not saying they are unseen. You can see them on a video, but not visiting them. Would the dairy have been the easiest one to pick off?
Yes and no. Very surprising when we went into that sale outside Shrewsbury. I think, off my recollection, it was the Diamond Herd, just outside Shrewsbury. Norton Brooks, my very first day to run the sale, and I think they've seen figures of 30-40% sold online. Okay. For the very first day, for people that weren't on site, we sold a heifer to somewhere around 20,000 guineas that day, which was a first for us. We were relatively new at the time. And now you're seeing a huge amount of bidders buying on a daily, weekly basis in the UK, up until obviously the challenges now with the blue tongue. But even to last week, we seen bidders buying in the UK on the big sale for H&H there with the Charolais and the Angus, with a lot of cattle going across to Ireland for that sale. So but again, with the growth of dairy, it's been phenomenal in the UK. It really, really has.
I mean, it's a changing, and I've had this conversation. We're on episode 100 and nearly 160 on this podcast now. And a lot of people we've had on there, James Alexander, various people, and we've chatted about the way social media or live online sales and what have you has changed. And COVID did that for all of us, I think, how it's changed to where we go. But there's certain instances where people will see the animals, or they need to trust the seller, especially, I suppose, if we're getting more into the pedigree side of it. They'll need to have a faith in the seller so they can just go online and bid. But from a time-saving point of view, having to go to the market and spend a day out rather than just on your phone clicking a button while you're on your tractor, it's phenomenal change, isn't it? It's a massive change within the farming industry.
Yeah, it's opened up a lot of doors for breeders. Like the ability for farmers now in Ireland or in the UK to buy each side of the pond has really helped, I suppose, broaden the horizon. Mm-hmm. But again, going back to what you said there in terms of trust, there's a lot of it down to trust. Mm-hmm. People don't have the time, I suppose, and even with people buying in the UK, it's down. They'll ring the breeders, they'll maybe develop a relationship with the market, and a lot of it really depends on the market, and credit to the markets that do it. They do a phenomenal job. They're there from the start of the sale to well after the sale is finished, and they have developed relationships with buyers over the years. We're kind of coming in and just putting an added benefit there, but without the markets, Marteye would not work. Okay. So that's the first thing to say. But what it's done now, it's just broadened the horizon for people. That an Irish seller can actually now have bidders from all over the world. Mm-hmm. Go back to Pierce McNamee's sale 3 weeks ago, and selling a heifer to a buyer in Australia who's an electrician, and his father getting the phone call the next day to head over to Pierce McNamee's to collect the heifer. Like, that's phenomenal. Like, it really, really is.
It is, and he said in 2 years, 3 years now, maybe since you've been going, it has changed that and given people that opportunity. I mean, I live in France, but I bought sheep in the UK through Marteye, so I know it's there. But as you said, you're not taking the place of the auctioneers. I mean, these auctioneers are still,
absolutely not.
Yeah, the markets are still there. The live cattle markets, of course, are still there in the UK, which they aren't where I live in France and Europe. We don't have live markets anymore, so you're not taking the place of that. Live markets are still there, and the auctioneers are still doing the work. You're just giving them a facility to find buyers out with themselves.
Yeah, look, it's as simple as this. Marteye could not work without the livestock mart or the livestock market. It's simple. It would just. It's a big community now of well over 100 marts. We're seeing somewhere in the region of 250,000 active users per month on Marteye. Wow. Active users is bidders, so on and so forth. And we're seeing a kind of a signed up audience of way, way, way above that. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very popular app. We've noticed that with the clips function we put into it. So going back to the very start, there was a series of where we started with the online bidding system itself. Then we moved into the hybrid, which was the livestock auctioneer using online and ringside that everyone would see today. And we soon developed the timed auction, which we'll have a chat about, I'd say, later on. But that has worked out phenomenal. And then we moved into the Marteye clips. So I suppose it was the version of Marteye TikTok, and people have really engrossed that. We're seeing huge readership of that on a daily basis. People going in and just flicking up and down on the clips and having a bit of fun in the evenings,
And you're obviously growing from that. You're growing, you said, was it 250,000 users? You're growing that as your own database, your own data set as well. That brings a value into the company too. Let's just talk about how where your revenue streams come from then. So the mart will pay you, is it a fee per sale or a monthly fee that they pay, and the buyer doesn't pay anything to you guys at all? Is that right?
Yes, so buyer pays nothing. The buyer doesn't really have anything to do with us. I suppose the buyer is the market's buyer. The market itself would pay us a monthly fee. That's the way we work. We provide our support and do everything else on the platform for the market to use, and keep the whole thing running.
And do you install that? Sorry to butt in there, Jamie, but do you go in to these marts and install the cameras, or do you send them a kit and tell them to glue them to the wall?
No, so we install the system. We have a network of, I suppose, the whole way through Ireland, the north of Ireland and the UK, of our people that I suppose can provide on-the-ground support and the support line itself. So we look after everything from start to the finish, really. So some marts would have maybe 3 cameras, 2 in the ring and 1 in the weighbridge. Other markets would just have 1 in the ring. All depends on what they're selling, Yeah. So a lot of the Irish markets would have 3 cameras, so the people can swipe left and see what's coming into the ring next, So no, all the installation, all the hardware, everything we look after everything, start to finish.
So you do part of that. You take them on a contract to say this is your monthly fee, and part of that first year is you're installing the whole system for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, it has worked out incredibly to date. In fairness, I think that the technical support side of Marteye is well perceived. Kind of going back to never having to cancel a sale or never having that serious downtime or anything like that, So, and it kind of goes back to one of the meetings we had with a mart, whereby we were asked the question, with the growth that we were having, were we going to hire new technical support and that kind of thing? And I love Darren's answer, which was, no, we're going to hire more developers. We'll fix any problems we have, and we'll keep our technical support down.
Sure. Okay.
And that's what we've done. So it's worked out well to that now.
Again, I've got a slight experience in that as well. Worked as a business analyst for 10 years in the IT world, so I understand how that works. And you're right. If you keep your problems down, then you don't need the technical support to sort them out. So that's a good answer on that one. Let's just go on a little bit to the pedigree side. I mean, a lot of our listeners, we've got thousands of listeners on the podcast, and 90% of them will be pedigree breeders. And the pedigree job is a bit more demanding than just selling cows through a mart there, isn't it? And you put together, or at least Marteye put together, programs, catalogs, that sort of thing. Who has control of that side of it, putting the catalogs and everything else together? Is that yourselves or the mart?
It's a mix of both, really. Some markets would do it all themselves. Other markets would ask us to do it for them. Mm-hmm. I suppose what we love to see is the markets getting involved and getting the pictures from the vendors up onto the catalogue. Yep. We find it makes a huge difference to the end user, so the bidder. We find that there's a lot more engagement there, and that they've a better kind of an overall experience, I personally, I love the aspect of where we can have the pictures, the catalogue, all in the one area. So if someone is watching a sale and they find some value, as in values in the eye of the beholder, they can click in, they can swipe left or right, they can see, they can kind of double check themselves, I suppose, see if the breeding suits them, and they can bid. I think that's been a major factor in the pedigree side working as well as it is.
Sure. And you've got, as you said, a lot of markets. So you've got big markets like H&H, pedigree auctioneers, McCartney's, Laurie and Simonton, some of the big players, and they'll probably run 2 or 3 pedigree sales at once there. I mean, they must have a lot more technology, I suppose, in those markets than perhaps just your average market does. But sometimes you're running 20, 30 sales a day, something like that. It must be, how much, when do you get maxed out on this thing?
So this was the beauty about Marteye. That I remember at the very start, going back to May 2020, asking Aaron the question is, how far what can Marteye tolerate, And the answer to the question was, well, we could have 10,000 marts running simultaneous, Jamie, no issue. So that kind of tells you the scale it was built to, So going back to that point, it was purposely built for online bidding. No add-ons, just that's what it was built for.
Okay.
It was built for a tool for the marts. So there's no problem scaling, there's no problem with how big it could possibly go.
Wow. And I mean, that's some marts, I suppose, might have started with one ring, and then would they just add more ring? We'll go on to the machinery side in a minute, because I know that's a big thing for a lot of markets now, all sorts of sales that they have there. So do they get started with one and then they come back to you and say, we need some more cameras to put ring 2, 3 and 4 on? Or is that how does it work?
Yeah, it did probably at the start. Especially in Ireland, where you'd have the seasonal sale or the yearly sales or the weekly sales in the first ring, and then they realised, right, well, we need to open up the wheeling ring, right, well, we need that ring installed as well. Same principle in the UK. And then I suppose H&H was a little bit different. We installed all the rings together, all in the one day, and went live the very next day. So I suppose it's a mix, It's a mix. There's markets joining every month at the moment over in the UK. So it's working out well over on that one, but it's a mix of what a market wants to do. It's every market is unique.
Sure.
So it's a case of what each market wants to do.
Sure. And I mentioned machinery. Obviously, some machinery sales that they're out in the field. There, have you got a facility now where they can go out in the field and film as they go around, rather than machinery is coming in through a sale ring? Is that something that you do?
Yeah. So that actual software, we call it Rostrum.
Okay.
It's an app that the auctioneer would have. It was actually originally built for markets in Ireland towards the June, July, maybe 2020, whereby markets were still selling sheep in pens. And they weren't allowed to sell them in the ring, they were allowed to sell them in pens. And eventually that stopped because of COVID. So we had to find a solution that the markets could still video and sell the sheep in the pen without having to bring them up to the ring.
Yep.
So that's how that software started, and it's very kind of goes back to the gavel that we talked about, where the app on the phone vibrates for an online bid. The audio comes through the phone. They can swipe left or swipe right to increase increments or decrease. And again, we built in that they can accept a bid from the floor from the hybrid bidding.
Okay.
So we were able to bring that then to the machinery sales, especially in the UK, whereby it's very different than how it's done in Ireland.
Okay.
And the auctioneers were able to video the machinery with one device, which would stream up onto Marteye. And then the second device then would be in the auctioneer's hand, which would do the bidding and the audio. Okay.
You say the auctioneer, Jamie, we're talking surely when you start taking online bidding or bidding from outside, it needs to employ an extra. I mean, auctioneers always had a clerk standing alongside of it. Are these clerks a little bit more techie now that they're taking some of the bids in there, or is it pretty much all wired into the auctioneer himself?
Such a difference between, I suppose, all over the markets. Some auctioneers will drive the whole system themselves. Other auctioneers will have a clerk to do it. All to do with how the auctioneer feels. it's designed that the auctioneer can do it. It's just like a third limb, really.
Okay.
It's designed that it's so easy and user friendly to use.
Okay.
So it's again up to an auctioneer's personal preference. But in Ireland, we would see every auctioneer would use it, and the clerk would have very little to do with Marteye. Okay. They're just keeping an eye on it if the auctioneer maybe goes off track or something like that. While in the UK, there's a difference, I suppose. Auctioneer's preference, really.
Okay. Let's go down to payments through the auctions there. I know the last time I bought sheep on auction, I think I paid direct to the auctioneer, but do you get involved in facilitating the finance side of it, payment side of it as well, or just leave that to the auctioneers?
Leave it to the auctioneers. It's down. That's I suppose where the security is at the moment for the market. That's what the market is good at. We're just a tool to, I suppose, help the market grow and I suppose, look, if there's something in the future that we can do with payments that would help the markets in a software basis, yeah, we look at them. But I suppose everything that we're building at the moment is designed to help the markets, help them grow, and keep them strong. Sure. Because that's I suppose that's what we're doing with the markets being strong. Marteye will grow strong, So that's. Okay. That's, I suppose, what we're focusing on.
And you're called Marteye for a reason, obviously, because you are the eyes and ears in the mart. But I mean, I collect paintings and one or two things. I deal with things like the sale room. I deal with McTeers in Glasgow, various things. Are there other aspects of this that are still growing within Marteye, or is the market a lot of competition out there, I suppose, when you get into other areas, or are you specialising in the mart? Is that where you live?
No, we're specialising in markets. Don't get me wrong, there's some markets in Ireland and the UK that use it for property, for houses, for pubs. We've seen some cool sales on it. We've seen big lathes and big press machines going through it. We've seen the contents of a pub go through it. We've seen antiques go through it. You literally could find anything on it, from a wheelie bin to a tractor with tracks on it. You could find anything on it. So I suppose for us, it's keep growing it, keep refining it, help try, I suppose, put more filters in that farmers can find what they need, improve the video. There's lots of improvements to be made,
Okay. And you mentioned timed auctions. Of course, that's another aspect to auctions. A lot easier for people to have a timed auction. Think they can go in, a bit like eBay, I suppose, go in, have a think about it and make another bid tomorrow or whatever, rather than having to bid in the heat of an auctioneer environment then. And so how does that work? Is that getting more popular, less popular? How do people take the timed auction side of it?
Timed auctions, I suppose they're relatively new in Ireland. They are not relatively new in the UK, so they'd be, I suppose, the UK buyer and the UK vendor would be very familiar with them. They've really took off in Ireland. I think the record price bull now sold at auction and the record price heifer are on a Marteye times auction, commercial heifers and a pedigree bull. I think the record average sale is on timed auctions, so it's done incredibly well in Ireland, and we're seeing probably 1 to 2 to 3 timed auctions a week on the app now. Okay. The UK itself, you could see machinery, you could see cattle, you could see absolutely anything on it on a weekly basis as well. So it's really, timed auctions is slightly different, whereby it really is a tool for the vendor and the buyer. So it's on the app for 4 to 5 days. Okay. The market can get in touch with us to put the big banner up at the top of the app, which really, I suppose, streamlines it and make sure everybody sees it. And then you have just the ease of bidding, that you can get in contact with the market, get approved to bid. You can click through it. The big part, I suppose, is the vendor has the photos, has the videos, has the details, has the indexes, so on and so forth, and the catalogue that the buyer can really go through. They can arrange to go look at the cattle in advance if they want to. They can get someone to look at them. And then I suppose you have the finale, which is in Ireland is usually on a Monday night at around 7:00, of when the curtain starts to close. This red curtain that comes down on the bids. If someone bids in the last minute, it'll open back up again for another minute.
That's right.
The bidder has the facility to put a max bid in. They can walk away from it. The beauty about the max bid is locked in a vault. Not the auctioneer, Marteye. Nobody can see what the max bid is.
Okay.
Nobody, not ever. So that was the max bid was designed, that it's locked in a vault. Nobody can see it. That the bidder has that security that if they put in £5,000 max bid, nobody can see it.
Okay.
And the bid, I suppose, the way the max bid works is it owns every bid up until their max bid.
Okay.
So if the animal is at 4,000 and they put a max bid in at 5,000, someone comes in and bids 4,1, well, that person that had the max bid in owns the 4,1, and they own the 4,2, and they own the 4,3. So it's been very good for that. It's been very good to highlight. It's been very good, I suppose, to some big breeds in Ireland and the UK. Most recently, as I said, we had Pierce McNamee on it. His first ever, I think, production sale. Incredibly well. We had Enna McGee here in Ireland. We had Gold Star Charlet here in Ireland up on it. We recently had the Munster branch of the Angus on it. And then looking across to the UK, there's a massive amount of sheep and cattle sales on it across the whole of the UK. So has really worked out incredibly well over there as well.
Okay, no, I bought whiskies on timed auctions quite regularly, and yeah, you're right. It gives me time to think about whether I'm going to drink them. No, I collect whiskies on there.
I don't think we'd let whiskies onto Marteye. I think we'd be broke.
But you do put horse sales on there, and there's I wouldn't say a dodgy industry, but there's an interesting industry, isn't it? The wholesale market, because wholesale has always been open to some fairly clever man when it comes to bidding. So clever sales guys there. So you get involved in that a bit too. Yeah,
so we've 2 sales in the west coast of Ireland for Connemara pony sales. We've Clifton and Mount Cross. And you recently had Caledonia coming on us, so which was very good to see. So yeah, it works out well, and what we see is a huge viewership for them horse sales. It's mind-boggling. It's lovely to see, and it's lovely to see the amount of online bidding for them. But again, going back to what you said, it's really down to the market on how they market it and how they look after the whole thing. And I have to say now, we've some very, very, very good markets on our hands. They're incredibly well tuned into what they do, and they keep their business in tip-top shape, in fairness.
Okay, and you, by taking all these bids through there again, where I've been involved in the analysis side of it, you will take a lot of data. You'll have a lot of bids against different animals. You'll be gathering a lot of data, I guess, through your database as these bids go on. Do you provide number of bids, and that you provide an analysis back to the auctioneers so they can see how their market's going, how the numbers are going?
Yeah, so that's all their data. So the beautiful thing about Marteye is that all of the platforms, for example, the URL that they have, that's their platform when they're on Marteye, So they have all aspects and access to their data on it, how many bids come in, how many people are viewing and stuff like that. So I suppose they've really got into it now, and they've really kind of looked at what ways to help themselves grow. And we've been there to answer any questions they have and how they can improve. And if they improve, we improve.
I suppose if they get geographical data on that, then they'll know, where in future where they can put a bit more marketing to gather those viewers in. And you also have some sort of chat section there where people can go on and talk to you, and I don't quite know what it does.
Chat with Marteye.
Yeah.
So Chat with Marteye is an AI-based software that we have on the desktop system, where you could go in and ask Marteye questions.
Right.
For example, some people go in and ask us, what's Red Tractor Assurance? Other people ask us what sales are on today. Okay. Other people ask us for general information, I need to change my address, or I need to change my herd number. So that's
And
it's an experimental, I suppose, aspect we're doing on Marteye, so some of the information might not be accurate, but it's something we're looking into that we can help.
Definitely an area. The technology market is growing very, very fast, isn't it? The AI chatbots and that. So you're involved.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal to watch that now, what it's doing, and again, kind of looking into that, how we can improve things for both the mart and the end user. And there's some really nice things coming down the line on that.
Okay, good. And you're Ireland based, but you're very much in the UK. What about Europe and USA, the rest of the world? Is the world your oyster on this one, or do you got geographical limitations, do you think, Jamie?
No, I don't think there's any geographical limitations on it. I suppose we've a mart in Italy that uses this a couple of times a year to really showcase dairy stock and dairy produce over there. So that's a big event there that happens now in the next couple of weeks. We've had so many inquiries from further afield, even going to Romania, New Zealand, so on and so forth. It will happen. We've no fear on that. But at the moment, I suppose we're currently developing another product, which is our back office system, which is relatively known to the marts. So there's some lovely, lovely stuff coming in that's going to, I suppose, help the end user and the mart. Okay. So that's our next one now. Okay. That's coming now in the next couple of weeks, and we're starting on the installation side of that. So we'll focus on that probably now for the next couple of months, and then we'll, I suppose, look at further afield.
Okay.
And that's our kind of a route now for the next year or so.
Okay. You'll obviously done your budgets and what have you. You'll reach saturation point with the UK markets, I guess, at some stage. But if they can take on more and more rings or bigger contracts, are you still growing as a company? Still growing at the speed you were?
Yeah, we're growing relatively well in the UK. There's I think between Ireland and the UK now, this month now, we've had strong growth. There's a couple of markets joining every month, so I think that's going to continue relatively well into next year, and probably towards the latter end of next year. We try to support the market really as best we can in terms of marketing, in terms of just the back office support, in terms of what Marteye can do, in terms of building the catalogues and really getting it out there. It's really turned into a kind of a huge benefit to the markets in the UK in attracting bidders both sides of the pond. Like going back to the one with the machinery, we've had markets that have had maybe 200-300 lots, and Marteye might be an online bidding tool, but they put the catalogue up on Marteye, and there was 3 Irish bidders seeing it from not in the one place but from around Ireland. And they arranged with the market to jump on a plane the day of the sale and go over, and they actually bought 3 or 4 lots in the sale. Now, they bought it ringside, but they seen it on Marteye. Okay. So it was also a huge benefit in terms of advertisement to them buyers, Yeah. And that really came down now to how it's on the app. That if the customer opens up the app and they see the little button up in the top right hand corner that says today, they can actually go down now and see what sales are there for tomorrow. They can see the time sales coming up. They can see the machinery sales coming up. They can click on the sheep. They can click on the dairy. They can click on whatever they like in there, And we've added maybe 4 different ways of customers being able to find things with the little magnifying glass down the bottom. And like we're learning every day in terms of what the end user wants. If we can, I suppose, help the end user, that helps the market. In terms of less phone calls and less support as well. And then down at the bottom of the app now, we've done the home button, and the second button in from the right hand side is the clips. And that gives just the end user the ability to go in and just flick through and see what different cattle are making. And it's algorithm based. So I suppose if people are going in and they are watching maybe store cattle going through the ring, and if they hit the like button on it, it'll start to show them more store cattle coming through the ring, and vice versa with sheep. If you're a pedigree Angus man and you start to watch more of the Angus going through the ring, it'll start showing you more Angus, and same with Charolais and same with limousines and so on and so forth. Okay. So it's very smart in that aspect. And
so a valuation tool then almost. Then I know I use that for whiskies. I'll buy one and I'll have a look through and see the last 100 lots of that particular type of bottle or art, whatever it is, and find out the average price. So could people do the same thing? Go back and look at previous auctions and see what things have made in the past to get a rough idea of what they're valuing.
Yeah, they can click back in on the clips if they, for example, get interested in one market in particular. And the tool realizes that this man wants to see a specific market, it'll start showing him more clips of that market. Vice versa for Angus and limousines and so on and so forth, and dairy. If you're just interested in dairy, the algorithm should learn quick enough. Now it'll often throw you in another aspect to see if you're interested in this, and if you are, it'll start showing you more of that as well.
I've got somebody to blame. I think I let my wife to stay and bid on a painting, and it came back she'd bought some jewellery because she'd found a jewellery auction was on. So I suppose the same might happen there. You're right. To go and buy something else. But that's great use of it, isn't it? To use the algorithms to find different things that people want. Everybody wants to buy something.
Yeah, and look, it's worked out well for us. So we've tried as well to, over the last maybe 2 years as well, to give back. We started a clothing line on Marteye with All Heart, All Mart was the campaign. And we donated that to charities across Ireland and the UK. So that's actually worked out incredibly well. And then we've done the Marteye in Ireland, which was our take on Live Aid.
Okay, yep.
So that was an interesting evening. I think we had 20 marts, each with maybe 10, 15 lots between the north and south of Ireland, with a different auctioneer in each market. To sell all for charity. So that money went to, I think it was Air Ambulance and Embrace Farm here in Ireland. So it was.
I saw that, and
that was a challenging evening.
I saw that, and a fantastic achievement that was, and great to put that bit back there. And you've won awards as well. You mentioned earlier on award-winning. I think you won. Was it the ploughing match of this year or last year? Maybe you won a sort of national award. You're starting to get recognised for what you do. Yeah,
won the award at the ploughing match last year, which was nice. And then we won the award up in the north of Ireland there recently, so that was lovely as well. It was well perceived by us, and it's nice, and that kind of goes back to the markets. We wouldn't be where we are without the markets that we have. It's as simple as that. We're very, very lucky to have them, and they're hard working.
You say that, but I'm probably going to turn this on its head a little bit and say the livestock market, some of the smaller ones disappeared from a lot of towns. Certainly from when I grew up, the markets aren't there anymore in the towns and the centres. And I think you wouldn't be where you are without the livestock markets. I think some of the livestock markets probably wouldn't be there without you. Would that be right to say that you've actually been the saviour of some of these markets?
I don't know. I think we've seen markets grow, yes, but in the other side of things, we wouldn't be where we are without the markets. So you can kind of look at it both ways, but it's, there's huge work that goes on behind the scenes with these markets. They put in incredibly long hours. They're the price setters for every farmer across Ireland and the UK.
That's the benchmark.
They set the benchmark. Whether that animal is sold privately on the farm and goes directly to slaughter, or whether that animal goes wherever from farm to farm, it's the price that was set the following week in the market that set that price. So it's I think kind of a lot of credit goes back to the market, because we especially see the work that goes on behind the scenes. I don't think a lot of people see that, and the detail that goes into it, like auctioneers on the phone from early morning until late evening talking to vendors or talking to buyers. So we especially see it. My phone starts at probably 8 o'clock in the morning and finishes around 10:30 at night, and that's to auctioneers and sellers alike. We'd more so, I suppose, in the south of Ireland and the north of Ireland, where the market would ask us to help the vendor with the catalogue and so on and so forth. So we deal a lot with vendors in the Republic and in the north in relation to that. So
okay.
we've done that. So going back to the phone just doesn't stop at times, you know.
Okay, but I mean, there was some that would say the livestock market is the social hub for people, and especially when times like COVID and the mental awareness that we're all much more involved in these days within the livestock industry, and for people to go to the mart every week and get there and collaborate together. If they're buying online and not getting into the mart, I suppose that takes that a little bit away from that. But I mean, as you said, you're encouraging everybody to speak to everybody. It's not like just going online. You're still keeping the communication channels open with these people.
Yeah, like I suppose if you look at some of the sales, for example, the Gretna House sale, the most recent sale in the UK that done incredibly well. If you look at that sale and just take that one for example, there was no standing room in Carlisle that day. No. Absolutely none. Credit to all involved there. Done it really, really well. But there was a huge amount of online that day as well. So I think what happened there was there was a huge amount of attention on the sale, but there was people that couldn't attend. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where Marteye came in then. Yeah. I don't think it was an aspect of taking away from the sale. I think you're still always going to get the crowd to the sales ring, mm-hmm. whether that's for stores, whether that's for pedigree, whether it's for machinery. You're still always going to get to them. Marteye is just an extension then of helping that people can't attend and people that wanted to view that can click in and watch the sale. And even now there's some markets that are live streaming their store sales. So their ordinary sheep sales, and their fat stock sales. And that's not taken away from the day itself. I think that's just adding in another essence of people that maybe were thinking about selling next week, that they can go in and just watch the sale taking place and say, Jesus, trade is good, I'm going to bring my stock there next week, you know. So we haven't seen it throughout Ireland or the UK taken away from the people in the ring. That's still filling the ringside week on week.
That sounds brilliant. I mean, that's a win-win for everybody if we're doing that. And as I said, you are facilitating. You will have competitors, I'm sure, out there. You're probably not going to divulge who they are, but there'll be people chasing your coattails on that. But at the moment, as I said at the top of this, anybody in the livestock business in the UK and Ireland that haven't heard of Marteye would be very few. So, Jamie, I can congratulate you or the four of you or the whole team there. I mean, how many have you got within the company there now, Jamie? There'll be more than the four of you anyway.
There's Margaret is the most recent to come on. So Margaret is doing a lot with sales now. She's dealing with markets now in Ireland and the UK. I think she's loving the timed auctions, mm-hmm. and loving the live auctions. We've kind of kept it to a small knit environment. We're currently hiring another developer for another project. Mm-hmm. So that's going well at the moment. So we kind of kept it to myself, Kieran, Mark, Aaron, Margaret, Anka is there as well. And we've kind of kept it to that, and we've kind of kept it small and close knit. That you know that we each deal with the markets, and we each deal with the auctioneers. And if one of us is off, the other one is there to basically provide the support if required. Okay. So it's okay. It's easy on that aspect when you have kind of a close-knit group, you know, and a market can ring at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. We've some markets going on till 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, there's always something on Marteye.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, it said that 20, 30 sales at a time, or 20, 30 sales a day, or sometimes 20 at a time. It is a busy one and hard for you to keep your all eyes on it. Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. You sound like you probably still got other work to do, and we're 8 o'clock at night now. But you guys, we've a few time sales on the app now. You never know what we could find. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, and congratulations, as I said earlier on, to the growth of a small business to where you've got to and still growing. And I'll still be buying sheep through you, and probably most of the people that listen to this podcast will be buying something through you in the next year or two. So you've got pretty much all my top lines and tails customers there as your customers too. So appreciate your time, Jamie. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, thanks very much. And I suppose it goes out to the end user as well, like that. We can't see everything on the app, and we love people getting in touch with us. Okay. And they can get in touch through the website, and that's, if they needed advice on it, we love, I suppose, kind of keeping in touch with the end user and open to suggestions on it. the app, I suppose, is for them through the market. So, like, if the end user has anything that they need to tell us, we love to hear it, you know.
Okay, and that's marteye.ie, is that right? Marteye?
Yeah, Marteye, or even email hello@marteye.ie.
Jamie, thanks again for your time. It's been great to speak to you this evening.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Top Lines and Tails, your weekly livestock podcast. And as always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Harbro, for their continued support. And this time of year, as we're coming into winter, a lot of you guys out there will be putting lambs out onto your forage crops. So to get in touch with Harbro regarding that as well, from as little as 3p per head per day, their forage booster buckets can help top up the vitamins and minerals and help those lambs make the most of those forage crops there. So get in touch with Harbro on their whole range of products and see what they can do for you with their nutrition and nutritional advice. So thanks again to our sponsors, Harbro. Find them on the internet or on social media. And while you're there on social media, don't forget to look out our Top Lines and Tails Facebook page. And also, if wherever you get your podcast or listen to your podcast, just click the follow button or the subscribe button so that you'll then be notified whenever Top Lines and Tails puts out a new episode. And also your following there will help grow our listenership on the internet. So thanks again to all you listeners out there to Top Lines and Tails.